Alright, hello guys. Welcome to my final presentation. Let me pull up the PowerPoint here real quick. And so my topic was mobile analytics, and talk a little bit about just why this is important. In doing research for this, I found an article that said that um, 64% of Americans now own a smartphone, which is almost double what it was only 4 years ago. And I mean, I'm sure you guys know, I'm sure you're using your phones, and for a lot of people, especially in developing countries, this is the primary way that they access the internet. So we know that more and more communication is happening on mobile devices. And by the very nature of mobile phones, they provide a lot more contextual information than a regular web browser would provide. And this additional information is hugely valuable to all sorts of people, not only advertisers and businesses, but demographers and sociologists and other people that want to um, study the way that people move or study traffic patterns and these sorts of things. We can do all of this through mobile analytics at a very large scale. But what I wanted to focus on um, is how a smaller company, a company without the resources of Google or Microsoft or even Procter and Gamble, how they'd be able to compete. And this semester, we learned a lot of different tools and a lot of ways um, that we can perform analytics at a fairly large scale, at a fairly intense and professional scale, without spending a ton of money up front. And I'm already signed in. All right, so the first thing we want to do is go over to EC2. I'll go over to EC2, and currently have a running instance, so I'll go look at that real quick. You can see that I have this instance up right here, and you can, I mean, there's the IP address. I'm not too worried if you see that. I don't think there's any really important information in there. But we're gonna go and we're gonna launch an instance. But actually, before I do that, let me go back. Before we do that, we need to create security groups. So the security group is important for Cassandra, because Cassandra needs to be able to communicate with itself and communicate with the outside world. And if you go to DataStax's website, and I provided a link for that in my report, you'll see the security group that they have. But we can look at edit the inbound rules. We can look at how this is supposed to be set up. So 9160, 9142, those are ports that Cassandra is going to use to communicate with the outside world. That's, I believe, where SQL Shell and outside applications will communicate with Cassandra. 22 is SSH, so that's for us to be able to communicate with the server. 5000 needs to be anywhere, because that is the port that our REST API will be using. And then the rest of them, as you can see, for the other ranges, so for 61621, 1024, 65535, we have set those actually to be this security group itself. So this is a self-referential rule. So we're going to save that, and then we're going to go to the dashboard and launch an instance. And go to community AMIs. And now you'll need to go to DataStax's website. So let's see if we can pull that up. Cassandra, right here. So launching the DataStax community AMI, and you'll see right there they have a list based on where you are of which AMI you should use. So I'm currently using the West geographically, so let's copy that and jump it back to here, and there we go. Search for that, and there it is. There is DataStax auto clustering AMI. It's based on Ubuntu, so we won't be using Yum. We'll be using apt-get. Select that. I'm going to choose the smallest one just for because I don't need a huge instance for what we're doing with this simple example. But you could obviously scale it up, and it's been predetermined. So you can see we have, we're looking here at 244 gigabytes of memory on this one, 6400 I don't know, is that 6.4 terabytes? I'm not sure, of storage as well. So this scale is very, very high, and we can set up multiple instances. But next we're going to go to configure instance details. All of this is fine. If you want to have more instances, change that up there. Go to advanced details, and we got to tell it a little bit of stuff. We have to tell it the cluster name, so the name for this cluster, and we'll just call it E63 install demo cluster. The total nodes, and I'm just going to have one because we're only running on one computer, and there's only one table that's going to be created, so Cassandra can stay pretty small. The version, which is community in this case because you're using the free version. There's additional optional things that you can add to the advanced details, but I'm going to skip that for now. Go to add storage. This looks fine for me. I just need the minimum. I'm actually not going to add any tags, but you can add tags if you have, a lot of these that you deal with. Configure security group. Select, and remember we set up that security group earlier, so now we can select it, remember our rules. And just a real quick reminder, DataStax has a list of rules, but we need to do that plus this rule, the 5,000, and that's going to be for our server to be able to communicate, for us to be able to communicate with the REST API that we set up, with the service that we set up on there. So review and launch. And come to this last page, double check everything, make sure everything's good. It all looks good to me, so I'm going to hit launch. And here we are. They're going to ask us for key pair. I already have a key pair created. E63 final is my key pair, but you could create a new one. And when you do that, so we'll say E63 install demo, download key pair. It's going to give me a file. You can't really see that, it's outside of the box. There we go. It's going to give me this key pair file .pem, which I need to hold on to, and hit launch instance. And there we go. Let's see if I can click over to that, and let's put that. I'm going to move that into my directory that I have all my E63 final stuff in. So I'll throw that in here. Okay, so I've moved it into my directory here, which is where I will SSH into the instance that I just created. So there it is. It's getting up and running. It's got a public DNS, so I'll go ahead and copy that. Again, so you have to change the access to your private key file, or SSH will refuse to use it. Change it to 400. Everything looks good. Okay, so we're going to get started. It's going to take a little while for Cassandra to get loaded. So while we're waiting on that, we can go ahead and open up another terminal window. All right, so here's my installation log and the installation script that we'll be running. The first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to, so this AMI that we installed, this instance, comes with Git, it comes with Python installed, pip installed, so it's got a lot of the stuff we want installed. It's got apt-get. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clone my project. So actually I'll just copy this. Control C. And there we go. That should be done pretty quickly. Make sure it's there. And success. E63 Final Proj has been downloaded. All right. The next thing I want to do is I want to run this. So I'm actually going to skip this part. Well, I'll go ahead and do it. Okay. So now we go to /E63 final proj /bin /install.sh, and here goes nothing. Now this will take quite a while. So the first thing it's going to do is we're going to install. First, we're going to add the binaries. Yes, we're going to add this bin tray to our apt-get sources list, and then we're going to update apt-get, install SBT. We're going to use SBT to follow this set of steps where we build and install Spark, specifically Spark 1.2.1. Now, the reason that we're using an older version of Spark is because the Cassandra Spark connector that we're going to be using for our Spark Cassandra connection uses older versions of Spark and is not compatible with 1.3. Next, we're going to install, we're going to copy a couple files here. So I have an S3 bucket set up as well, and it's got two files on it, interactions.csv and E60 cities.csv. So we have interactions.csv, cities.csv. These are files that I created a while ago using some scripts, some Python scripts. So this data comes from multiple sources, but let's talk about that real quick. So and then finally, the last thing we'll do is we'll do sudo pip install. I have a requirements file that has all the Python modules that our interaction service needs. We'll run a list of SQL shell commands to install these CSV files into Cassandra so that it has some information when it starts, specifically the cities, so it knows the coordinates of some cities. And finally, we will start the service using Python. So quit that.